Okay, back again. Welcome everyone to the channel. We are here to discuss Liverpool, how the season went, um, the things that we think went wrong, what caused such a poor season for Liverpool, and then we'll look forward to what we think could happen next season, how we can improve next season. So I'm here with my brother, Statman Stana. How is it going, Stana?
Yeah, it's all good. It's been a long ride. It's been a roller coaster of a season. So many ups and downs, but mostly downs. So I'm quite happy the season has ended. And uh, let's see how next season goes. I'm not so much optimistic, but hopefully I'm wrong, and next season will be a good one.
Yeah, don't forget that the way Manchester United finished last season, nobody knew United would be able to bounce back and
Yeah.
come and finish third. Finish with 24 over 20 more points than they did last season and all that. So I think sometimes in football when things don't go well and we tend to predict the following season based on the performance of the last season. Sometimes I think even in most cases we get it wrong. In most cases, for example, a team wins the Premier League and the following season we say that they are going to win it again. Most often than not, it doesn't happen like that. So with Liverpool, I think even though we think the problems are a lot, we can see a lot of things that are wrong. Mentality wise, things don't look right. Tactically, there are issues, player profiles. There are certain positions where we need certain profiles than what we had during the season. So all that need to change. The manager, how he motivates the players and all that, maybe some of the things need to change. But I think sometimes just a small change. Because when I look at United, what did they really change this season?
Reformation,
When you look at the
back
United,
to the basics.
they bought for only 4 players from what they had last season. They added only 4 new players. And then the other advantage is that they weren't in Europe. So they didn't play as many games. And the last thing, they changed the manager. So these are very simple things that happened that we never thought would result in such an improved performance this season. So yeah, I think things can change very quickly. Things can change very quickly. Just like a change for Liverpool from good or from great to worse this season. I think things can change. So in your view, how do you summarize the season? We played against Brentford in the last game, of course. If you want to say anything about that game as well, you can do that. But for me, I don't want to go into that game too much. I think it was similar to the games that we've seen this season. It was a summary of our whole season, and there's really nothing new for us to analyze in that particular game. But yeah, just let me know your thoughts from tactical issues to players not really putting themselves about and also mitigating factors. Where do you think the problem really was?
Um, I think it's a combination of factors. The start of the season, the players that we brought in on face value looked like we are shown a lot of ambition bringing in the players that we brought in, and even for the amount of money that it had never happened in Liverpool's history before to splash that amount of cash. Even though we did sell some of our players as well, and it takes me back to a quote, or I think it was an interview by Salah where he said he thinks that Arsenal have the best chance of winning the league, primarily because he thinks that they have a squad that have been there for a number of years. But Liverpool, even though we had won the league the previous year, we had lost a few players and brought new ones. which would mean that it would take a bit of time for it to click. And evidently, that is what happened. So the new players that we brought in didn't settle in as we thought they would. That is the first thing. I think some of them struggle with the pressure of playing for a big club. Someone like Milos Kerkez really struggled with confidence early on with how he approached the game. Some others had injuries as well to begin with, like Isak, who had fitness issues. Some players just couldn't adjust fast enough, like Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, couldn't adjust to the training regimes from the Bundesliga, the intensity of the Premier League. Florian Wirtz suffered from the intensity as well. So all those things were a factor. I think the other thing, other than the signings not being able to hit the ground running, was the players that were there last season who really showed up. All of them, or most of them, also lost their form. Someone like Alexis McAllister, and they carried on throughout the season. Mohamed Salah, who carried us to a Premier League title last season, was also really down in form. So just a combination of issues that hit us at a very bad time, combined with the fact that before the season started, no other club mentally would have been able to contain what those players went through. And I listened to Robertson a few days or a few weeks back where he was mentioning the fact that the first game of the season against Bournemouth at Anfield at minute 20, when the fans were chanting the name of Diogo Jota, the players, I mean, form in that particular moment dipped as at minute 20. They weren't able to focus on the game anymore because this is a guy they've been in the changing room with, and tragic incidents happened like that. They all cut their holidays off. They came back. They didn't want to train, but they had to. Physios didn't want to treat them, but they had to. So even though the leaders were in the dressing room, they tried to talk it out, but you are talking things out. But you have a game every 2 or 3 days. You go on and you lose, and then it feels like it all comes crashing down again. So it was very difficult for these boys to do it. It is very simple for rival fans to say, come on, that's a silly excuse. You can't give such an excuse, but it is a factor that it isn't the only reason why Liverpool didn't perform, but it is a key reason why the players lost their marbles at the start of the season. And even though we won our first 5 games, the signs were there. There were lapses in games where we couldn't take control of games for majority of the game. About 10, 20 minutes of each game that we won in the first 5 games. We weren't in it anymore. And the opposition, we always allowed the opposition to come back, but some way, somehow, we found a way to win the game. So a lot of these factors were part. I think tactically as well, Anna Slot made a few decisions that weren't so good for the players. Someone like Milos Kerkez, for example, I've spoken about his confidence again. Tactically, Milos Kerkez isn't a player that is very potent when it comes to build-up. He was using it for build-up instead of what he's really good at, which is overlapping down the wing, bombing down the right-hand side. But his connection with Cody Gakpo wasn't there at all. At all. Every time he made an overlapping or underlapping run, Cody Gakpo some way somehow didn't see his run every single time. So there were a few issues tactically, mentally, new signings coming in, old players who were already at the club losing form. So a combination of issues, and it just carried on all throughout the season. And it looks like the season ended, the last game of the season ended in a similar
Not
fashion.
not to cut you, but so far, if I'm really understanding what you are saying, it looks like players lost form, new players couldn't settle in, tactics weren't really good.
Yeah.
But when we look at last season or the season before this very last season, the manager was almost always spot on tactically. He was almost always spot on with his tactics. Both the starting lineup, the starting strategy, the in-game management, he was absolutely magnificent, especially in the Premier League. Players themselves, they were so on it. Players were absolutely bang on it. They were always ready. Do you think that the excuse about, or the mitigation about Diogo Jota passing away right before? So let's remember that this was right before the start of preseason.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to start preseason, I think, in 2 days later or 3 days,
Yeah.
and the news happened, and they still had to report anyway. So, do you think that because of Diogo Jota's death, there was a drop in standards starting from the preseason? Because if players are mourning, what Slot himself said is that he gave the players the free will to train if they want to. If you don't feel like training, don't train. So right there and then there's a drop in standards. The standards are not maintained at that high level anymore. It's a massive drop. So right from preseason, that drop in standard occurs. And I think in some way, somehow, it was difficult for them to pick it back up at some point in the season. And that is what has run through the entire season. So the standards weren't too high in the preseason because players were more, they were having a difficult time. The manager himself was having a difficult time. So the preseason, I would say the team missed almost an entire preseason.
Yeah.
They came into the season, they tried to keep going, put things behind them and keep fighting, but it came crashing down after 5 games.
Yeah.
So the Diogo Jota excuse, if you look at it from the point of view that players were mourning or the team were mourning him, and that is why there was a drop in the performances alone. If you look at it from that standpoint alone, you might say it's a flimsy excuse. But when you look at the mechanism through which that kind of news or that kind of situation can work through the
Yeah.
standards within the team, then
Yeah.
you might get a better understanding of why this can lead to very huge performance
Again,
gaps.
talking about the standards, it also meant that, and even before I talk about the standards, Anna Slot is also a human being. He's not just a manager. He also suffered from the loss of Diogo Jota. So his own motivation as the manager of the football club was also affected because he coached it. Again, the standards also meant that when in games, for example, at halftime, if you needed to give the players a rollicking, he might have opted not to
Yeah.
because he knows that the players psychologically aren't really at the top level where they can take what you would give them in terms of trying to motivate them in a different kind of way by um, talking harshly or speaking on top of your voice at them. So in terms of trying to motivate players, trying to send a message to the players, you had to find a different way, which ordinarily might have not been the plan if the players were okay psychologically. I think all those things were also a key factor at the beginning of the season as well.
Yeah, you also add in the fact that Liverpool won the league quite early on in the previous season.
Yeah.
And after we won the league, clearly you could see that standards dropped. Clearly, players were on holidays. The manager himself was on holidays.
Yeah.
So when you look at that drop in standards after we won the league, because we really had nothing to play for, we come back and there is a funeral. There's a tragedy that we need to deal with. The standards drop even further.
Again. Yeah.
So how do you pick that back up? It is going to be very difficult. And like you say, the manager sees the players struggling. So if the players are struggling, they are not able to perform to the standards they want to perform to. The players themselves didn't like the way they were performing. The
Yeah.
likes of Salah and McAllister and all those players who lost form, they didn't like it. They wanted to get out of that trap and they couldn't. The only thing the manager could do was to help them. You have nothing else to do than to help. Um you can't be on their case and be um disparaging them and
Yeah.
trying to shout at them. You can't do that. In that case, it will be like you are throwing them under the bus. So the only thing the manager could have done was to help them try and find reasons why they are not able to bring out their best and see if he can do something about that. And for me, he wasn't successful. He wasn't successful at doing that. So I do have some sympathy for the manager. He didn't cause the downfall of Liverpool this season. External factors, external shocks was responsible for the players not being able to perform at their top level. But my accusation on the manager is that he did not really succeed in turning that around, because that is your job. Your job is to find ways and means when things are very difficult to flip the switch, try and get the players on side, try and get them motivated to kill themselves for you, to die for you on the pitch. He wasn't able to do that. And so I would say that if Arne Slot were to leave Liverpool right now, he'll probably go on to a different team and do very, very well. He'll probably go to a rival Premier League club and beat us and win the league again. He can. Because for me, I think he's a very good manager. So I do have sympathy for him. And I think Liverpool has brought this on Arne Slot and not the other way around. we make it look like Arne Slot has brought this on Liverpool. But I think it is rather the reverse. Liverpool brought this on Arne Slot, but he also couldn't deal with it. And that has been the problem. Now, let's look at the issue of Xabi Alonso going to Chelsea. People have issues with that particular happening, that Chelsea has been given a free run to go at Xabi Alonso. Do you think Liverpool should have stepped in to try and make something happen for Xabi Alonso to come to Liverpool?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed that Chelsea got Xabi Alonso. Firstly, because I think there's an attachment from all Liverpool fans to Alonso because he's played for Liverpool before. Remember his third equalizer in Istanbul in 2005. So he's very revered at Anfield. Most people regard him as a legend. I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, most Liverpool fans really to take kindly to him because he played for the club. So there is that kind of affinity, not really a logical reason for wanting him to manage Liverpool, but more of an attachment to a former player that has played for Liverpool before. Why do we allow him to go to a rival club when our current manager is not really pulling the strings? But I wasn't too bothered that we didn't get Xabi Alonso through the door. I think that Xabi Alonso, the way or style of football that he plays and what Arne Slot is capable of doing and what he did in his first season, I don't think quality-wise, Xabi Alonso is a better manager. The gap is so wide that he's when Xabi Alonso is there for the taking, it is not even a
Also,
conversation that we go for Xabi Alonso. Yeah, you were
also
saying
let me
something.
chip in this. I would also chip in that Slot has met Xabi Alonso twice since he came to Liverpool. And on both occasions, he's beaten Xabi Alonso. One with Leverkusen, one with Madrid. So with the Leverkusen one, you can make the case that Liverpool had a better team. We were more stronger than Leverkusen. That's why we beat them. What about Madrid? You can't make the case that that Liverpool team, player for player, was better than Madrid, but he still beat him. Tactically, Arne Slot was better on both occasions.
And the following week, we lost woefully at the Etihad after beating Madrid. Yes, so for me, I think for me, the reason why I want Arne Slot out mostly is because ideally, no manager comes into a football club the way that Arne Slot came in. Mostly, you come to a football club because there's something that needs to be addressed, something that needs to be changed. But Arne Slot came in, it was an ideal situation for him. Not ideal in terms of he had all the quality in the world, but it was a stable environment. There weren't any chaos. There weren't any bad performance that he had to raise the standards again. The standards were already there. He just needed to carry it on, and he did. So this is the first time that required him to really manage the situation as the manager of a football club and as a manager of Liverpool. And I don't think he was really able to do that. And that is my major frustration with Arne Slot.
When it comes to what you said about this is the first time he needed to raise standards. I think that might not be necessarily true because when you look at his previous teams, the teams that he managed, AZ Akma, I'm not even going to mention the I think he managed a team before AZ Akma, but let's look at AZ Akma and Feyenoord.
Yeah.
These teams were not teams that had any winning mentality before he came. He went into the dressing room, he instilled the winning mentality in them, and they were winning on a consistent basis. So for me, I think he's capable of doing that, but he still needs a fairly stable environment to be able to do that. I think with Liverpool and what went on in the summer, there was too much chaos for him to be able to manage. So much so that I don't think any manager would be able to really manage such chaos in the dressing room the way we had it, with all the change in personnel as well as the tragic occurrence. So I think
Yeah.
when it comes to raising standards to ensure that a team has the winning mentality to keep going week in, week out, I think he can do it because Feyenoord, before he went in, the last time they had won the Eredivisie was, I think, 6 years ago before he came in. And in his first season, they finished second. His second season, they won it. His third season, they competed again. They finished second. So he has that in him to be able to instill that consistency in a team. But I think when it comes to Liverpool's situation this particular season, it was just too much for him to be able to overcome. The issue about Xabi Alonso going to Chelsea, I really don't think Xabi Alonso could have come in to massively improve. He would have improved it. But I'm talking about getting Liverpool to PSG levels, like the level Enrique has taken PSG, or getting Liverpool to Manchester City levels, like the level Pep Guardiola took Manchester City.
Yeah.
For me, I think if we are going to get rid of Arne Slot, whoever comes in should be able to take us to that level where every season we are competing for the Premier League and Champions League simultaneously.
Don't you think
The,
Xabi Alonso has the potential to do that?
I still don't see it. He hasn't proven it for me to say that. He still hasn't proven it. So that is why I wasn't worried about Xabi Alonso going to Chelsea. I wasn't even thinking about it because I think if Liverpool are going to get rid of Arne Slot, it has to be someone that is much, much better. I don't really think Xabi Alonso is way better than Arne Slot. He might be a bit better, but even still, he hasn't really proven it. He hasn't. That's the whole thing. People also mentioned Andoni Raiola. I don't know why people mentions Andoni Raiola. There's a difference between doing well at Bournemouth, playing one game per week, and competing only in domestic competitions, to managing Liverpool,
Yeah.
where you are expected to perform week in, week out, every 3 days, to be specific. It is not even every week. Every 3 days, you need to perform. You need to perform at the highest level.
Yeah.
Andoni Raiola hasn't shown that anywhere. He hasn't. And Slot, before he came to Liverpool, he had played in a European final. So his CV wasn't that bad. He had played in a European final. He had won a championship. He had won a league. So between Slot and Andoni Raiola now, Andoni Raiola now versus Slot before he won the league last season, there's still a huge gap. I think Slot is way ahead of Iraola. The second thing is that when you look at Iraiola's teams, he's not very good at managing injuries. His teams suffers a whole lot of injuries, a lot.
That is because
And
of his training methods. I was listening to Antoine Semenyo, an interview for him where he was talking about his training process and how when he came in at first they were training every single day, no off day, not even one single off day, and he thought
yeah,
that as time went on maybe he would ease up a bit, but he says even right now they still do it the same way. And if you come to Liverpool and you're playing every 2 3 days, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, Premier League, how would he be able to accommodate all that, coupled with not just being a coach on the pitch but a manager as well? That
yeah,
would be a huge risk, and so it's a bit of an unknown commodity in the sense that nobody knows if he can be able to match up to the standard of managing a big club. We've seen Thomas Frank, who had actually been a manager. And Donny Urelia was not a manager; he's a head coach of Bournemouth. Thomas Frank was, in some larger extent, a manager at Brentford because he had been there for 8-9 years, but he couldn't really cut it at Tottenham Hotspur.
Okay. I think now let's look forward to next season before we end the video. So, staying with slots, is it going to work for us next season? In my view, next season wouldn't be massive. It wouldn't be a massive improvement. I think there will be a little bit of improvement next season. The reason why I say I expect a little bit of improvement is that most of these players who were highly affected by the tragic situation last summer are leaving the club, notably Salah, Robertson, possibly Allison, right?
Yeah.
Possibly McAllister.
Is Konate confirmed to stay?
It is not confirmed yet, so possibly Konate as well. So when we look at all that changes and bringing in new faces, I think that could help. The only reason or the negative about that is also that these new players will need time to settle in as well. So just like the new players we brought in last season didn't manage to really settle in very well, those players will also take some time. So I think staying with Arne Slot or even bringing in a new manager next season, we shouldn't expect to compete for the league and the Champions League. I don't expect that. Even if we change the manager, even if we bring in Luis Enrique this summer, we are not going to challenge for the Premier League. For me, I think the fact that we need to bring in fresh blood, we need to bed in new players and all that, it is going to take time. So to some extent, people are saying if Arne Slot doesn't perform well in the first 5-6 games of next season, he should be sacked. I think that would be, I don't know, but if we are giving him the job for next season, then he should be given more time next season. The first 5 games or 6 games or the first 10 games shouldn't be used to judge him. If we want to get rid of him, then we should get rid of him now before we start the season next season. But if we are going to give him the time, I think it is going to take us another season to be able to get back to where we want to be. What do you think?
I agree with the last point, not so much the first one. I think yes, if Arne Slot needs to go now. When we start next season, it shouldn't be sacked after first 5 games or first 10 games. That would be a catastrophe. That would mean that anyone who comes in next, it means next season is not a void. Because anyone who comes in after 5-10 games with me, he would also need time, he would also need new players. That would be us shooting ourselves in the foot. If we are bringing new players for Arne Slot next season, then it means that you've convinced yourself enough that you trust him enough to turn things around. So how bad could it be after 5 games? Then you go out and sack him again. I think he should leave after from now till the World Cup, and he should be shown the door. A new manager comes in, starts preseason, gets some new players in, then we see how it goes. But if he continues next season, then I'll probably give him a lot longer than that. So I agree with you on the score. On the issue of if next season, if it would be an improvement, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing Liverpool be especially if we're adding more signings to the squad again next season. It would mean that the new players, as you've already said, would need time to adjust. Not just that, some of the old players that have left would leave a huge gap in our team, not just their quality on the pitch, but their presence in the dressing room, their presence even on the pitch. It would mean that someone like Virgil van Dijk would need to take even a bigger role now because some senior players have left, and he would be probably the only one now in the dressing room who, depending if Alisson or Joe Gomez also leaves, would mean that he would have a massive job on his hands. It would be a whole lot new faces. They would need to gel together. it will take a whole lot of time, and I don't see how Arne Slot will be able to rally all these boys up again, because I think that some players as well, if I'm looking at the brouhaha that Salah had with Arne Slot in December before he went to the AFCON, those issues, I think some of the players in the dressing room are not necessarily on board fully with Arne Slot still being there. I feel there's a bit of tension in there with some of the players. But players are players. If they start winning games, they start winning games. They will definitely start to believe in the process again. But I don't see us being consistent enough for that to happen. And that is why I think I'm not really seeing an improvement for Liverpool. I think we can possibly be in and around the top 5 places again, like we have this season, but I'm not really seeing anything better than that. And I'm not really expecting better than that either.
Yeah, I think my statement about getting better is not really getting massively better. I don't think we'll be massively better than this season. But the reason why I say we'll be better than this season is that I think this is the lowest that we can go. It is the lowest of lowest. We can't get, if we can really get worse than what we did this season, then there's something really wrong at the football club. If next season goes even worse than what this season was, then there's a bigger problem than we can imagine.
Yeah.
So given that this is our lowest of the lowest, then I expect that there will be a little bit of improvement, a tiny little bit of improvement, which perhaps would put us in 3rd position, or at the very least finish in the top 4.
I'm not seeing a Champions League finish
next season.
I'm not seeing it. Personally.
Yeah. It's possible. It's possible too that next season we might not finish in the Champions League. But I do think that one thing that will help us, and one of the reasons why I think we'll improve, is that in spite of the new players coming in, those who were brought in last summer would have had enough time to begin to find their feet. So the likes of Florian Wirtz will improve, all other things being equal. Even though we are going to miss Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak is going to find his feet some way, somehow, or he would begin to find his feet. And another thing also is that this season we have had a lot of injuries, but one of the reasons why Arne Slot was brought to Liverpool is that he has a very good injury record. So this has been an anomaly of a season in terms of keeping players fit for Arne Slot. And I think it goes down, it goes back to the point we were making about the standard, the preseason.
Yeah.
I think it is because of that. That is why we've had the injuries that we've had this season. So I expect that to improve next season, the injury record. If Arne Slot can keep players fit, I think we'll do better than we did this season. So also players finding their feet can also lead to some sort of improvement in the Liverpool team. Yeah, but apart from that, I don't know. In terms of signings, do you have any specific names in mind that you think Liverpool should bring in, or positions that you think we can bring in? Let's wrap up with that.
Yeah, I'm not a scout by any means. I don't really like proposing players for clubs because you are looking at intangibles. He plays for another club. The system might be different. So I think that is the job of the Liverpool scouting department to find those sort of players. But position wise, of course, I think we need a midfielder, another midfielder in there. I think I've spoken about Alexis McAllister's inability on and off the ball, especially off the ball, where he has been a bit of a liability for us. He goes and gets dribbles past very easily. He's not able to win the ball back. The shield in front of our defense isn't there. The number of passes we allow opponents to make before we get close to them is really, really not good enough. And so I think we need another body in there who is more robust, more combative. I think we've needed that sort of player for a while now. Endo Wataru Endo was a bit of a stopgap. I think we really need a presence in there. I think Salah is
Yeah, I
leaving.
think Endo is going to leave this summer.
Yeah, I think on the right wing as well. Of course, Salah will be leaving, so we need another left-footed player to play on the right wing. The Jeremy Frimpong, we could use it as a stopgap at times, but it doesn't really work in the long term. So
Do you think we need two right wingers? We need to bring in two right wingers.
I think we need one right winger and another winger who will possibly be a versatile one who can fill in on the left and then on the right as well. That is what I think. I think we need ideally, we would probably need three wingers, one on the left to compete with Gakpo on the left wing and two on the right. But if not, then one on the right, then possibly another one who can deputize on either wings as well. I think that is the kind of profile we need to find. So those people that will give us the width on the right hand side and possibly the left hand side, and another midfielder who is a bit more who will bring us a bit more presence, a bit more bite in midfield to complement the players that we already have. I think for some of the midfielders or the defenders that we have,
Let's stay in the forward
Leone.
line.
Okay,
Let's stay in the forward line. In the forward line, given that Hugo Ekitike is going to be out for the most part of next season. Actually, for me, I don't expect Hugo Ekitike to be back to any sort of form until the 2027-28 season. Next season, I don't even expect him to get any significant amount of playing time. Given that, do we need to bring in a striker in number 9? Or you think we can get two wingers, one who will solely be on the right to replace Salah, and one who is versatile and can play with Rowan Gumoha on the left. And then we can put Gakpo in a 9 position. Or you think we should bring in a 9?
I think one thing is clear: we definitely need one attacker that can play in a variety of positions. I think that is the one thing that is clear to me: a right winger, and then one that can play in a multiple of positions. So either a winger that can play as a 9, or can play on the right or the left wing, and then um, in certain games, Kodigapo might deputize for Alexander Isak, because remember, Isak is also not a player that can go a whole season and play 38 games. So that is a bit of a worry. Ideally, that would mean we would need another striker. But if you look at the amount of money we spent last season, I don't think we would be able to cough up 5 signings again. Because we are talking about a midfielder, we are talking about possibly 2, 3 attackers, and if that is to happen, it would mean that none of them will cost probably
Okay, so
less than
let's let's
40 or
do
50
let's
million.
do a count. Let's try and do a count. So we need one right winger,
Yeah,
a
one right.
versatile forward who can play either in the number 9 and also as a left winger,
Yeah,
or as a left winger and a right winger. So that is
yeah,
2.
yeah,
We need a midfielder, defensive
yeah,
midfielder, right?
yes,
Who can play with Gravenberch. So that is 3 players. And then what else? A defender. We need a center
yes,
back, right?
yes, yes, and a
That
center
is
back. I think, but for the center back, that is where I'm a bit more, because the center back we have Giovanni Leone. I don't know how good or how well he'll be able to come back physically next season. I think he would possibly be fit for preseason next season, which would be a huge boost.
I
I
also
also
don't
don't know.
think that Joe Gomez is going to be around next season. I don't think so.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
Joe Gomez were to be around, I don't think we would bring in another one, because remember we've signed Jackie in January as well, who will be coming in next year, and it looks like he will be coming in not to be a sort of a maybe a young player trying to learn from the others. He would be in contention to start some games, or certainly compete with Giovanni Leone as the third centre back, if Konate is staying. So depending if Joe Gomez leaves,
I kind of feel I have a feeling that regardless of whatever happens, we need to buy a defender. And I think the best approach would be to find a defender who can also play on as a right back or a left back. If we can find that versatile defender, good on the ball, he can play either on the left and also as center back or on the right hand side. Then what we do is that we shore up our defense against injuries. So when there's an injury to Conor Bradley, which I
Yeah.
expect, or it is something that you can't rule out. Conor
Yeah.
Bradley is an injury prone player. So if there's an injury there, he can fill in. If there's an injury in at the center back, because we don't know how fit Giovanni Leone is going to be next season. And then he can also fill in at that center back. So I think whichever way, we need another center back. So it means
I
that
think
at
I
the
would.
very minimum, we need
Yeah.
4 players, 4 new signings.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think I would rather opt for a center back that can play as a left back rather, because
Hmm.
I'm looking at who is deputizing for Velos Kerkes. Simicas coming back, I don't really see it. And but you remember on the right, if Conor Bradley is in there, Jeremy Frimpong is an option. He also has a few injury concerns. But if both of our right backs are in there, Casey Jones could fill in there, so Boslai could fill in there. So I'd rather want a centre back who could play as a left back rather than a centre back who can play as a left back or as a right back. I think that would be more suited to the kind of squad depth that we would want to have next season.
Yeah, so that means that at the very minimum, Liverpool will need to sign 4 players. One
Yeah,
defender for sure, one midfielder, 2
to
attackers.
attackers.
And I think that is what is going to happen. We are going to get 4 new signings. I don't think it will be more than 4, except when we have players leaving in massive droves. So, for example, if Casey Jones ends up leaving, Joe Gomez leaves, we also have Konate leaving, then probably we might add an extra body in that
Allison could probably leave
department.
as well.
Yeah. So I think next season we have to expect 4 signings. I think,
Yeah,
but I think the manager really likes Simicas. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that he really
yeah,
likes Simicas. He has no problem playing Simicas and Kekes
yeah.
on the left hand side.
But one other thing that I want to mention, I'm not really impressed with Mawadashvili for a goalkeeper, and I'm much
Fair,
concerned about
fair.
the price tag as well. 40 million for a backup goalkeeper that can't play out. He can't play out. He can't replace Allison enough for me. I've seen his first time he started a game for Liverpool, I started to have doubts, and it has continued all throughout each game that he's played. He's not really able to play out from the back. He has confidence issues when the ball is at his feet. Even without the ball, I don't think he's able to command his defense well enough. And for 40 million, I'm so not. I'm a bit skeptical about our second goalkeeper option.
My concerns with Georgie is quite different from yours. I think he's okay with his feet. I feel like he's not great. He's not on the level of Allison or even Edison
He's
of
not even on the
formerly
level
of Man City.
of David De Gea on the ball. He can't play a long
Really.
pass. Never seen him play 2 long passes in a game, accurate ones. I don't see it
Accurate
at
passes,
all.
yeah. But I do think that is something that can be improved. I think the main reason why they brought him in was that he is a very good shot stopper, and I think
Yeah,
he is, except his 1v1 saves.
yeah,
But yeah, I still have concerns. My concern mainly is the fact that given Liverpool plays a high line, we need a goalkeeper who is front footed,
yeah,
who can be a sweeper keeper. And the way his starting position when the ball is floated behind our last defender is very poor. Very, very poor. So I think those are the things that needs to improve. If not, then he probably has to leave. But yeah, let's end here. I
yeah,
think the video is getting too long. So we'll end it here. We'll continue. We have a lot to discuss about Liverpool. So if Liverpool is what you want to hear about, keep locking into this channel. And don't forget to click the like button. Also subscribe if you are new here. And comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. See you. You never walk alone. Bye.